Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
What's up? What's down? What is going on around? I'm Paulo Leasing, founder of StartupInTaiwan.com. This show is to answer your questions about starting up in Taiwan, either for business, school, or just hanging around. So leave your questions in the comments section below. Our guest for today is Farshad Irani from Australia. Fish is a website performance consultant helping companies achieve their business goals through website optimization. His core focus is reducing the environmental impact of the web, reducing their carbon footprints. He has a bachelor's degree in business, computing, finance, and internet business technologies from the University of Technology, Sydney. Fish, welcome to the show. It's been a while. So the last time we were together was when we were working at another tech company here in Taiwan called Cyberlink. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay, man. Yeah, it's been a hot minute, eh? I think we've both done quite a bit since we've left Cyberlink as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, welcome to the show. So let me jump to the first question. Why Taiwan? What brought you here?
Desire to get out of Sydney just to try something new, before I settle down with a mortgage and a house and everything like that. I thought I'd try something different. I did want to learn Chinese in Sydney, and I thought I'd go to a place where I can speak it. Mainland China wasn't appealing for a few reasons. So Taiwan became a legitimate option. And when I was able to come here and do a language class, I took that opportunity. So that was 9 years ago now. Somewhere in that first year, I was like, the original plan was to learn Chinese here for a year and then probably go to Hong Kong, Singapore to move back into fintech and work in the finance sectors there. But somewhere in that first year, I was just like, man, Taiwan's a pretty sweet place to live. So I started looking for a job, and eventually Cyberlink found me. I found Cyberlink. I don't know which way around it happened. And I settled down there for the next 5 years of my time here.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and I think you've left Cyberlink like 2 or 3 years ago, and many things have happened in that company. And one of the things we discussed before this recorded interview is that how a spin-off company, Perfect Corp, was able to now about to list, about to IPO. So it's quite like a transition. It's quite like a progress from that company as well. So since you moved out of Cyberlink, you also started with your own business. Could you tell us more about what you do, specifically helping companies reduce their website carbon footprint? You could also tell us what inspired you to do this mission.
Yep, sure. So originally when I left Cyberlink, and I think a lot of people when they first go freelance go through this, I was a generalist. Come to me, you want to build a website, I'll build it for you.
Okay.
Sometime during that first year of doing that, I realized I was spending more time on the optimization performance side of things rather than spending time on the front end that the client actually sees, and so I thought around mid-2020, I made the decision just to go all in on performance. And around that time, I was also becoming more aware of the environmental impact of the internet and digital in general. So just a bit of a primer, because I think it's new to a lot of folks. If the internet was a country, it would be the 7th largest polluter in the world.
Wow.
So in terms of global carbon, it's estimated that between 2 to 4% of global carbon emissions are from the digital sector. The measurements vary depending on how you measure that, what your scope is. But 2 to 4% it puts digital kind of around or above the airline industry in terms of CO2 impact. So I was becoming more aware of this, and for a while I kind of sat there and thought, well, what can I do? I'm not a climate scientist, I'd love to do something, but I build websites, man. Come on. And I realized after a while that the stuff I did to make websites faster also could help reduce the carbon impact of the websites. And so, yeah, that's how I kind of got involved in all this. And it's all, a lot of it is still around performance, because let's be honest, no one comes to me saying, hey, I want my website to be green.
Yes.
People come to me saying, I'd like my website or app to be faster, because the literature out there, the research out there shows that a faster, better, smoother website experience results in better business metrics. Your conversions are higher, your engagement is higher. SEO these days is also impacted by site performance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what people care about. But in order to help reduce the carbon impact of it, the stuff that we do through web performance can play a big part. And so that's where I've kind of focused my efforts and energies in the last year and a half, 2 years kind of thing.
So as you know, websites are easily built nowadays. In fact, you don't need to write a single line of code to actually build these. How could you convince someone to ensure that their website is light or environmentally friendly? Do you have some key pointers?
If you do have developers on site, I would recommend writing the code yourself, because you can do a lot more than a lot of these generic website builders allow you. That said, sites like Squarespace, Wix, Webflow, they have made big steps in recent past to improve the performance of their final product.
Mm-hmm.
But because they're catering to such a general market, they cannot take it too far.
Okay.
There is a limit on what they can do. So if you are using those kind of tools, and WordPress falls into this bucket as well, you can start with really simple things that when you're uploading content, try to optimize your images, run them through a compression step. If you are using video, try to avoid auto playing that video. It's nice to have that big hero image or hero video at the top of the screen that plays instantly when someone lands on it, but that's a lot of data that's being pushed over the wire. And when that data is being sent down to the user, that's using electricity. And that's a large part of a website's carbon footprint, is the electricity that is used to actually download the content that is then shown to the end user. So optimizing your images, avoiding video or avoiding autoplay if you still have videos are big things.
Okay.
Beyond that, trying to reduce the amount of JavaScript you use, if possible, because by using too much JavaScript, you can put too much of the operational load onto the client's device, which then drains their battery, requires them to charge it more frequently, and then again, that's all just energy used.
Okay.
If you host your website yourself, one really easy thing you can look to do is to move to a green web host.
Okay.
So there is a group called the Green Web Foundation that have a directory on their website of green web hosts that they've certified, and you can find a web hosting service there. If you can't find a web host that suits your needs, try to use a CDN instead on top of your existing hosting service, just to reduce the amount of distance the data has to go. The amount of energy and electricity that's required to pump that data across oceans is a lot more than it is if I've got a data center back behind me in Taipei that's sending me the content for your website, So try to invest in a CDN if you can as well.
I wonder if there's some incentives for going green in terms of putting up a website, some sort of like maybe a tax break if your website is, let's say, environmentally compliant, or some rules are being followed by some certain websites. Do you know anything about this?
Not yet. There's nothing of that sort, like specific to websites, no. If you're looking at it in terms of your company's scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 carbon emissions, your website would be classified as scope 3 emissions. And as we move more towards having carbon taxes or carbon requirements for companies, carbon reporting requirements for companies, I think Taiwan's doing a fair bit in that space. Listed companies, I think, will soon have to report their what they're doing about their CO2 emissions. So it might come into play eventually in a roundabout kind of way. Like it'll be bundled in with all the other scope 3 that your company will have to track and have to report, especially if you're a larger company, I think.
Okay. So, so the buzzword right now is Web3, and one of the big problems of Web3 is basically the amount of gas that's being burned to run it. Any thoughts on this? Like, but first of all, do you think that Web3 will happen soon or will happen? And then the other question is, how can we even make sure that this Web3, which is basically an innovation from the Web2, will be less harmful to the environment?
I say this as a person that doesn't really understand a lot about Web3 or NFTs or any of that stuff. Someone that's not involved in that space as well. So I don't comment from a place of great authority or knowledge or anything. I personally can see a use for things like blockchain and that type of technology, especially around verifying carbon offsets, for example. That is a definite use case for something like blockchain. Beyond that, stuff like cryptocurrencies and all that, personal opinion, I would not dabble in them. They are unregulated. There have been so many scams recently, especially since COVID hit. I personally wouldn't get involved. If you do go down that path of wanting to invest in crypto or wanting to do more about Web3, I could only say do your research. There are companies out there I know that are working in this space and looking to make it green. I know I've heard about Ethereum has a green branch. I don't even know what the bloody thing's called. There's a greener version of Ethereum that requires less computing power, stuff like that. Do your due diligence, and is it going to supplant Web 2? I don't think so. I think the internet Web 2 has its problems, tracking scripts, analytics, advertising, cookie consent banners, etc. But the web is good. On the whole, the web is good. And as a place where you can get knowledge, as a place where you can share knowledge, as a place where you can stay connected, I think Web 2 is cool, man. It's okay.
Okay, so this channel is all about helping foreigners live in Taiwan for whatever they want to do here legally. As a foreigner in Taiwan in general, how do you think can Taiwan improve the lives of foreigners here, based on your experience?
How long have you got? Because I got opinions, man. I got opinions.
Well, you can basically tell me the key things that come to your mind. Maybe limit it to 5 minutes or 3 minutes.
5 minutes is plenty long. It's cool. I'll take an example from last year during the pandemic, or during the lockdown, when island-wide there was level 3 and people were at home and stuff like that. The shops had to close. I was one, and I know of other companies that are run by foreigners that were not eligible to receive the benefits from the government, the subsidies from the government during that time. And these are companies that have Taiwanese staff, have Taiwanese factories, have stores, shop fronts in Taiwan, that are ambassadors for Taiwan when their products are sold globally.
Correct.
But because they do not have Taiwanese directors as part of their company structure, they were not eligible to receive government subsidies during a time when a lot of them, especially bricks and mortar restaurants, were struggling. So making those kind of things more accessible to foreigners, even when they did the subsidies for individual people, it took some time for the Sanbei trend, the Wubei trend to be able to be received by ARC holders or APRC holders. I don't even know if ARC holders could get them. So that's one thing, like making those kind of things more open and accessible to foreigners. I mean, we all pay tax here, so I don't see why there should be a differentiator based on the fact that I've got an ARC rather than having a Shenzhen, you know?
Okay.
Another thing would definitely be around the banking sector.
Okay. That's actually everyone's concern, but yes,
Yeah.
Continue. Sorry.
Opening a bank account is a PIA, man. It is so hard. There have been banks that have knocked me back as a foreign individual, but when I go there with a Taiwanese business, it's a different story.
Correct.
And I'm the same person, right? And I'm an individual business as well. So making it easier to access financial services, whether that is opening a bank account, an investment account, that will make it a lot easier for foreigners to do business in Taiwan, to live in Taiwan, to think about Taiwan as a long-term option for a place to settle down.
Okay.
Moving away from paper and stamps. The year is 2022. I think we can get away from putting that book into the machine and having that be our bank account details, you know. Modernizing the banking sector, the finance sector, making it more open, definitely things that will help. And finally, I guess, from a company perspective, being more open to like remote work.
Oh.
The way that companies in Taiwan, especially larger companies that are more likely to hire foreigners, the way that they were so slow last year to react to the notion that staff would be working from home, and the way that they were so quick to get those staff back into the office the second it was seemingly okay, that for me is something that needs to improve, especially if you want to attract foreign talent. You need to be more open about how you think about your employees. This attitude of you are not at your desk, therefore you are not working, or you're not in the office, I can't control you, you're not working. That needs to change. And that's a bigger, mental change for managers and laobans in some of these larger companies. But those are three areas. There are others, but those are three that I think would be really important for Taiwan to continue to attract foreigners to come here and live.
Wow, all those 3 points, I agree 100%. I think it's all about just from the perspective of the government. I think it's about how you really value the presence of foreigners here in terms of your overall goal of attracting maybe high caliber talents or investors coming in to look at this, to look here and see whether it's worth investing here, putting up money. So. And with that, we really need to think of how the foreigners here are currently living and what are their concerns. So I fully agree to those 3 points. So our goal for this show is also to help our guests. So what's your action item and how could we help you?
Reach out.
Podcast. We don't have that yet.
No, just reach out. If you are curious about website sustainability, if you would like to find out more about the impact of digital on the planet, just reach out. We can have a coffee if you're based in Taipei or somewhere else in Taiwan. If you're overseas, we can have a virtual call. I'm more than happy to talk to people and educate people about that, because I think it's something that is very, very important. And if you have a website that you want to make faster, or that you want to see how it performs and get some sense of where you are at the moment, let me know. That's what I do for work. So I'd be more than happy to help out there. But yeah, just make that connection. Yeah, don't be afraid to drop me a line.
I've seen you posting a lot recently on LinkedIn, and for the information of our viewers and listeners on our podcast, I will put the description. I will put in the description of this video the information on how you could contact Fish. So we're now on this part of the fast round. So basically, you need to tell me what first come to your mind when I ask you a question. Are you ready?
Cool. Yep, let's go.
All right. What's your daily breakfast?
Most days it's Louisa coffee with a bagel.
Okay, fancy. What show are you currently watching on Netflix?
Nah, mate, you know me. You know me. No Netflix, no shows. It's rugby league, rugby union.
Okay, that's good. Are you a morning or night person?
Very much a morning person.
Android or iOS?
Android all day.
Mac or PC?
PC, Linux.
Okay, very specific. Favorite games or board games?
Pokemon. Anything Pokemon, man. I grew up with that, and I'm gonna keep growing up with it until they stop producing games.
All right. Favorite movie of all time?
Oh, I don't think I've got one. I don't really watch many movies.
Favorite
So,
book?
yeah.
Favorite book?
Quiet by Susan Cain. It's the byline is The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. When I read that, I think I read it when I was in my early 20s. It really helped me understand who I was as someone that is introverted and who doesn't really, get that much energy from being around people.
Wow.
It helped me appreciate me for who I am. I think it's a very, very good book.
All right. I think I could relate to that as well. If you have the link to that book, maybe a link to the Amazon, and maybe you could share it with us as well. So that's the last question for you, Fish. So thank you again for joining our show. And for our audience, please spread the word about what we're doing here. Subscribe if you haven't done yet. Have a good day. Fish, thank you so much.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.